Hello students, and welcome to the video tutorial for Let It Go from the Disney movie Frozen. Now I've made this as a video for you guys to refer back to so that you don't forget anything that you've learned in our lesson. So in this video we're going to be reviewing the chords for the verse, chorus, second verse, and the bridge, which does give us the entire song. The first thing we're going to learn is the verse. Now this verse is relatively simple, but some of the chords are a little bit big. So I'll be first going through the big forms that'll sound a lot fuller to you all. And then I'm going to review some of the smaller chord forms that could be used as a substitution for those of you who are not used to having your fingers stretch so much. So first of all, we start with an E minor chord. Now this is relatively simple. Just take your first finger and put it on the second fret of the A string, and then your second finger and put it on the second fret of the D string. Now, even though we're only pushing down 2 notes, we'll be strumming all 6 strings for this one. So you want to make sure that you have your hand lifted up and your thumb down so that all of these strings have room to move. Give that a strum, and it sounds good. And remember, if you ever can't quite figure out if you're playing the chord correctly, try checking it 1 note at a time. All of them are good. Now the next chord that we have is a C. Now this is a very nice transition to go from the E minor. We're going to lift up our first finger and put it on the first fret of the B string while leaving our second finger exactly where it is. This second finger creates sort of a pivot so that we don't have to lift up all of our fingers and try to figure out where to put everything again. Now we can feel where we're going. Once we've put our first finger on the first fret of the B string, we put our third finger on the third fret of the A string, and there we get a lovely C chord. And the C chord is just strummed from the A string downward, so no low E in there. That's going to make it sound really muddy. So we strum from the A string downward. And there we go, a nice beautiful C chord. After that, we go to a D. In order to play a D, put your first finger on the second fret of the G string, your second finger on the second fret of the E string. And in between those, we're going to have your third finger on the third fret of the B string. So, one thing you need to watch out for is that your third finger is going to want to lean over, especially for those of you who are really used to gripping the guitar really closely. So one thing that you can do to keep that from happening, bring your thumb down and let some space develop between your hand and the neck. This is going to give your third finger the ability to arch over so that you can stay on the tip and not touch any other strings. This chord will be strummed from the D string downward. And again, if you're unsure about any of the notes, just play them one at a time. Next we arrive at a sort of decoration of an A chord. The best way to find this is to start by making an A minor chord. We're going to do that by putting our second finger on the second fret of the D string, our third finger on the second fret of the G string, and our first finger here on the first fret of the B string. Play a nice clear A minor from the A string down. Very good, nice and sad. Now to make this into an A sus chord, which is what we're looking for, we're going to put our pinky down right here on the third fret of the B string. We're just going to add that on, and that gives us sort of a tension-filled sound that really wants to resolve. And of course, directly after that, it does. So we play this, and then we take our pinky off to play a regular A minor. So we now know enough of our chord vocabulary to be able to start to play through the verse of this tune. So it's going to sound a little something like this. E minor, C, D, A sus, A minor, E minor, C, D. Now this one's different. We still have an A sus, but this time it goes to an A major. So we have 2 phrases almost exactly the same, but the first one ending in an A minor, and the second one ending in an A major. The third phrase is another repeat of the first. C, D, A sus, A minor. And the last phrase is completely different. It uses the same chords but in a different order. We go E minor, D, A major. So let's play that entire verse. This time to the major, E minor again, C. This brings us to the pre-chorus. This is the part that's building up to that lovely chorus that you guys love to sing over and over again. Now this part is pretty simple. It's really just switching back and forth between two chords to build up that tension. So we start with a D. Then we go to a C. Another D. And then a C. And then so this C right here that I've just played is a really cool variant on it that's starting to build up the tension and the complexity. It looks almost exactly like a G chord, but with our second and first finger moved over a string. So we're going to have our second finger here on the third fret of the A string, our first finger here on the second fret of the D string, and then our third and fourth fingers here on the top two strings on the third frets. Nice, beautiful sound. All right, so let's review that again. We have D to C, D, C, and then we go to our special C chord, our C add 9. Now the chord progression for the chorus is a chord progression that's common to a lot of my favorite songs. This is a 1-5-6-4 chord progression. You chord theorists will know what that means. So here we start off with our 1, and in the key of G it would be this, G chord. Then we're going to go to a D chord, then an E minor chord, and then a C chord. In this case, our complex C chord, our C9 chord that we learned in the pre-chorus. C add 9 rather. So again, that's G, D, E minor, and C add 9. It's going to repeat that 3 times. On the fourth phrase, we're going to have a G chord, which is going to take us then to a B flat major chord. Now there's a few things that we can do to make this easier. The first is to simply play a power chord based on B flat. That will sound good. Let the storm rage on. Doesn't sound bad. It still sounds pretty nice. So in order to do that, we put our first finger here on the first fret of the A string. Our third finger is going to go on the third fret of the D string, and our fourth finger is going to go here on the third fret of the G string. We're going to play a 3-note chord from the A string to the G string. Now this will sound pretty good. And for those of you perfectionists who want to do it the correct way, we're going to change this up a little bit. We're still going to have our first finger here on the first fret of the A string. But now we're going to have our second finger right here on the third fret of the D string, our third finger here on the third fret of the G string, and now our fourth finger here on the third fret of the B string. Now this allows us to get our third in there, which gives that chord its extra color and that extra harmonic goodness. Now most of you will notice that this chord looks almost exactly like an A chord, which it basically is, but with everything moved up a fret. This is what gives us a B flat major chord. Now after our B flat major chord, we go to a C. And this is just your regular C, not C add 9. Alright, so I'm going to play the chorus for you now. G, D, E minor, C add add 9, G, D, E minor, C add 9, G, D, E minor, C add 9, G, to your B flat major, C. Now, for those of you who haven't had my lecture on pop music form yet, here is a little bit of review. Pop songs always begin with an intro, and in this case, all you have to do is cycle through the verse chord progression once without any singing or melody. Then we go to verse 1, then chorus, then verse 2, then another chorus, then the bridge, and then our final chorus. A lot of songs end on the chorus, but some songs have an outro. This song just ends on the chorus. So once you play that last chorus a few times, go ahead and just strum a final G chord, and that'll give it a nice ending. A few parting words before we go. Some of you are going to be asking me what sort of strumming pattern should be used on this song. And the short answer is there's actually no strumming pattern in the song because there's no guitar. What we're learning is a composite of elements of orchestra and piano. So there's actually a few strumming patterns that could work. My recommendation to you is to test out strumming patterns that you've already learned and then bring them to me in class, and we'll see how they flow in the song. Also, I've taught you this song in the key of E minor, but the actual song on the recording is in the key of F minor. Now, if I would have taught it to you in the original key, it would have contained all sorts of bar chords that would have made your hand spontaneously combust into flames. So trust me, I'm being merciful. However, if you really want to play it in that original key, just put a capo on the first fret and you'll be right with the recording. Also, having a capo on the first fret can actually ease up some of the tension that some of you guys experience because of high action. So if you're having a hard time with those full bar chords, try and put a capo on and see if that helps.